It's not exactly the biggest secret in the world that Disney Channel have created a fair share of pop stars over the years. And I believe when the story's told, it generally goes that Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, Ryan Gosling, to name a few, were all on the all-new Mickey Mouse Club in the 90s and became megastars. This is like the fun camera, and this is the serious one. Fun, serious, fun, serious. Which led to a major light bulb moment in the Disney office where they were like, what if, and hear me out here, we just started doing this ourselves? So that's what they did. They just started creating pop stars themselves. Now, with this all said, I don't think it's entirely fair to say that any of these artists were created by the Disney Channel. That's not fair to anyone's artistry or talent. But it is fair to say that Disney had a lot of influence in the early stages of so many successful musicians' careers that are still around today. And the point of this video was to try and work out how many times Disney Channel did this. But that was an idea I had back in December 2023, almost a year ago. And I've learned since then that the connection and correlation between Disney Channel and music is honestly frightening. Like right now on screen is just scrolling a list of people who have been on the Disney Channel in live action once, at least once. Some of them have been on more than once, obviously, and have also released music at some point in their career or life. This is the list. It's so long. Can you tell? I've gone through every single one of these people and looked into them. And I am also only human. I have probably missed people out. This was just extensive going through IMDb pages and Googling of people. Like, that was my research process. And I've officially decided the cutoff point for when this stops is the 1st of September 2024. If there is a hugely successful pop star that has come about in October 2024, I'm sorry I didn't mention them. Anyway, with that all said, to start, I just wanted to create a basic definition for what is a Disney Channel pop star. And immediately, my brain went to, Hollywood, okay, I pressed the wrong button. Hollywood Records, I'm blocking it. Imagine I was not in the way when that happened. Let's talk about Hollywood Records. So if you don't know, Hollywood Records is a mostly pop-focused record label in the Disney Music Group, or DMG for short. It was first founded in 1989 by the then CEO of Disney, Bob Eisner. Michael Eisner. It's because it's Bob Iger now. That was what. But I don't think it had any correlation to the Disney Channel at that time. Throughout its first few years, I genuinely think they just spent trying to buy Queen, but like buy the rights to Queen's music and like own. And they released Queen's last two albums. But in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a clear shift in strategy of Hollywood Records, which is why it's probably best known now for being the record label where most Disney Channel pop stars began their career. And essentially, what this strategy was is they'd take their teen stars, who are becoming somewhat household names, especially among other teens and tweens, and get them on a massive contract to release music, including tours and merchandise, where Disney are gonna make a lot of money from. Or alternatively, take one of their already established musicians on their label and get them to star in Disney Channel shows. And in doing so, they were basically cross-promoting all of their work. They had the music videos playing during the ad breaks, they had them singing the theme tunes for the shows, their songs were being put on Disney's playlist, they were being featured on the Disney soundtracks, you name it. Basically, if you were watching the Disney Channel, you were having these musicians promoted right in front of you, even if you didn't realize, and that got you to buy their music, go to their shows, buy their merchandise.
It really worked too.
It really worked too, says my girlfriend behind the camera. And that's what brings us to the first section of this video. The indisputable Disney Channel pop stars. You know, the ones that literally Disney were making money from their music. I'm gonna go through them in order of when they first appeared on the Disney Channel in about 2 minutes or less each. I'm not gonna spend too long on each slide, but let's go. First one. I forgot I put an effect on that slide, and that was. And our first Disney Channel pop star is none other than Raven Symone. So this is Raven here in her first Disney Channel appearance all the way back in 1999 as Nebula Wade in Zenon, Girl of the 21st Century. So let's talk about Raven Symone if it lets me move on. There we go. So here we have Raven Symone. As you can see, she has 156,000 monthly listeners on Spotify at the time of recording or the day of ending research, 1st of September. Don't forget, that's an important day. Signed to Hollywood Records in 2003 or around 2003. You see this little thing here? I'm saying around. I don't actually know what date the papers were signed. So just There's no misinformation in this video. Don't quote me on that though. And then in the same year, she starred as Raven Baxter in That's So Raven. Now, I can tell you that one as a definitive fact did happen in 2003 because, there's a lot of records showing that show aired in 2003. And she also did the theme tune for That's So Raven, also called That's So Raven. I consider doing a theme tune for a Disney Channel show a pretty significant part of being a Disney Channel pop star. Like, they only give the theme tunes to the people they really like. So the fact she was doing a theme tune straight out the gate is a big deal. Theme tunes are important to being a Disney Channel pop star. You heard it here first. And this was one of 6 Disney Channel soundtracks she featured in. Of course, That's So Raven is the first of these, and that actually hit number 44 in the charts and is certified gold. Again, just to clarify something here, if I say something hit a number in the charts and is certified gold or platinum or diamond or whatever, that is in the US, certified in the US charts, the Billboard 200, the Billboard Hot 100. I'm using US stats, they're just so you know. And alongside the That's So Raven soundtrack, there's a That's So Raven 2, which is a second That's So Raven soundtrack, and she's on the Wizards of Waverly Place soundtrack, a Go Figure soundtrack. She's in a couple more soundtracks, which we'll get into in a second. But firstly, she also had 2 top 200 albums in the Billboard 200 with Hollywood Records. Those albums are This Is My Time, her 2004 album, which hit 51 in the charts, and also her self-titled Raven Symone, which hit like 159 in the Billboard 200. She was also featured in 2 Walt Disney movie soundtracks, those being The Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement, and also, if you watch the classic Disney sequel, The Lion King 1.5, the sequel, prequel story about like how Timon and Pumbaa got to where they were in The Lion King. She is the one singing the end credits in that movie. Like, the end credits song, Grazing in the Grass, is by Raven Symone. And on top of this, she also featured in 2 Disney Mania and 4 Radio Disney soundtracks. Again, I'm just trying to explain everything as simply as possible for this first slide so you can understand what it's about. Basically, Disney Mania and Radio Disney were these CDs that Disney made with Walt Disney Records, where they were basically used to promote their upcoming artists. Disney Mania was mostly like their pop stars singing classic Disney songs, and Raven appeared on 6 of these soundtracks. Then, after all this and about 5 years of Hollywood Records, she left in 2008 before returning to the Disney Channel once again as Raven Baxter in Raven's Home, where again, she did the theme tune, which is also called Raven's Home, and is one of the 6 soundtracks from Disney Channel she's appeared in. She returned and has actually returned to making music again as well in 2019, where she came back with a new label, but she has actually not released any solo music since then. Which brings us to my favorite part of the video. With every Disney Channel pop star, I have this thermometer, or a scale, where I'm going to rank them on how much Disney tried to make them a pop star. And this scale ranges from, we don't talk about Bruno, to just made it into the will, to Disney's golden child. Those are the parameters of the scale, and Raven Symone, she made it into the will. She comfortably made it into the will. We also have my girlfriend's opinion on Raven Symone. This is a little thing I'm doing on some of the slides because my girlfriend wanted to put her opinions in this video, and says she's one of the most iconic figures in Disney history. Raven Symone deserves a Lifetime Achievement Award. And that is what officially makes her our #1 Disney Channel pop star. But that isn't all with Raven. You see, you might have noticed I left something very specific about Raven out there. The fact that she was a part of the Cheetah Girls. Let's talk about the Cheetah Girls. They all still have nearly 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify to this day, and consist of, obviously, Raven, Adrian, Keeley, and Sabrina. They starred as the Cheetah Girls in the Cheetah Girls, if you didn't know that. And that also had a soundtrack which hit number 33 at its peak in the US Billboard 200 and is now double platinum. They signed to Disney Records in 2003, which is obviously where they released that soundtrack. And it's a bit of a confusing one because they also signed to Hollywood Records in 2007. Basically, both of these record labels are owned by Disney, but essentially they released their soundtracks with, like, for the movies with Walt Disney Records and their studio albums with Hollywood. So they made 3 soundtracks for their 3 movies and 2 studio albums. The main success stories, though, were their soundtracks. Again, the Cheetah Girls 2 also hit number 5 in the US charts, so it got a top 10 and is certified gold. They also featured I just said that, so I jumped the gun a little bit there. And they also had 2 singles which charted in the top 100, with Strut being their most successful one with 53 in the Billboard 200. And again, I don't know how it goes. I'm very sorry. Strut like you mean it. Strut like you... Yeah, let's hope so. They also sung the end credits song for the first ever computer animated Walt Disney Studios movie, Chicken Little, with Shaker Tail Feather. So if you ever watch the first ever computer animated movie by Walt Disney Studios, just know the end credit song is being sung by these girls over here. I know I'm out the shot, but it's these girls over here. They're the ones singing that. Finally, yeah, they featured on 11 of the Disney soundtracks that I'm going to mention in basically every slide. I hope you get used to this. As you may know, Raven left before the third movie, and the band officially broke up in 2008, or around 2008. Again, we can't know for certain when the day they had their big falling out was, and there has been no music since. Which brings us to the best part. Where do they land on the scale? I'm saying the Cheetah Girls are even higher than Raven Symone, almost Disney's golden child. I'm saving that golden child spot for someone more special than the Cheetah Girls. And that, of course, brings us to my girlfriend's opinion on the matter. She says they're the Spice Girls if they were talented and they were all Mel B. And she also wants me to publicly apologize for my Cheetah Girls video and to say that I'm stupid. Which makes it officially number 2 on the board. That is the Cheetah Girls. We have 2 official Disney Channel pop stars. Which brings us to number 3. So this is going to be a little bit anticlimactic, I'm very sorry to say. Here we have BBMak, the band. So BBMak have 170,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and I'm assuming a lot of you are probably thinking, why is this British band a Disney Channel pop star? Well, sorry, they consist of Mark, Christian, and Stephen, and then I will answer your question. So they were the warm-up act for both Britney Spears in 2000 and NSYNC in 2001, which, as we kind of established earlier, were seen as the first Disney Channel pop stars, so to speak. And I can tell you from listening to their music, they are just essentially every boy band from the early 2000s, late 90s. Signed to Hollywood Records in 2000, so they were signed to the Disney record label and officially appeared as themselves in the TV show Even Stevens. Specifically, I believe it's the season 2 premiere, and they are like guest stars, and the girl Ruby is like a huge fan of them and like wants to meet them, and they show up, and for that reason, they kind of fit the criteria. They are pop stars who were then put on the Disney Channel as a way of promoting them as artists. They released 2 albums with Hollywood Records, both of which broke into the top 40. And they also had 3 top 100 singles, with their most successful one being Back Here, which hit number 13 in the charts. And it also appeared in Radio Disney Jams Volume 3. So
that one's my favorite, actually.
Volume 3, yeah. I actually preferred the Holiday Jams, personally. They feature in 3 Walt Disney movie soundtracks, with The Princess Diaries, Treasure Planet, and Return to Neverland among those, before breaking up in 2003. And yeah, that is the end of the BBMak story. So where do they land on... Nope, sorry, that is not it. They are reunited in 2018, apparently, and I believe they are releasing with a new record label. They're not with Disney anymore. So they took a 15-year break and are now back. So good for them. Where do they land on the scale? I think it's going to be no surprise to anyone that they're relatively low down on the scale. We don't quite not talk about them, bringing us to my girlfriend's opinion that is correct to my memory. Oh, it's up here. What? They are a dollar store in sync. Number 3, they are the 3rd Disney Channel pop star officially for this video. Bringing us to the next one, which I swear they're not all going to just be bands that performed at Disney Channel in concert, but this did happen in 2000, which I'm going in order of when they first appeared on the Disney Channel, and this band happened to appear on this. We've got Youngstown. This is Youngstown. They have 14,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and consist of David, Samuel, and James. This should be a quick one. They signed to Hollywood Records in 1998, so a pretty early signing, and actually performed for 3 Disney Channel soundtracks, including the famous Jet Jackson theme tune. They also sung I'll Be Your Everything, their popular hit. I'll be your everything. Probably not how it goes, on Radio Disney Jams Volume 2, and it also appears on Inspector Gadget, I believe, which is one of 2 Walt Disney movie soundtracks they appear in. They broke up in 2005, and unfortunately, have not reunited yet. Which brings us to the scale. Where do they land on the scale? Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much in the same place. I'm giving them a little bit higher than BBMak because they did make a theme tune for one of the Disney Channel shows, and in my opinion, that is important. But they also didn't really show up on Disney Channel. They just performed in Disney Channel in concerts. My girlfriend did not have an opinion on this, so they are number 4. Which brings us to the next artist. You know her, you love her. It's Hilary Duff. Hilary Duff, to this day, still has 1.6 million monthly listeners, the most of anyone in this video so far, obviously. She starred as Lizzie McGuire in Lizzie McGuire and signed to Buena Vista Records in 2002. Now, if you don't know this, Buena Vista is also owned by Disney. So this is just another example of a Disney signing an artist that already was signed for them basically. But Buena Vista is more of like a soundtrack focused record label, and she did like a Christmas album with them, if I'm correct, and the lead single from that album, I believe, featured in the Santa Claus 2, something that will probably come up in a bit. I thought it was going to be the next bullet point, but it wasn't, because this bullet point is that she features in 3 Disney Channel soundtracks, the most prominent of those being the Lizzie McGuire movie, which hit number 6 in the Billboard 200 and also is double platinum. Then we have the bit about Santa Claus Lane being on Santa Claus 2. Finally, she signed to Hollywood Records in 2003, where she released 4 albums that broke into the top 3. The most notable of these albums is Metamorphosis, her first one, which hit number 1 and is quadruple platinum. But it's also worth noting that Hilary Duff, her self-titled, is also platinum and hit number 2. And Most Wanted is a number 1 platinum album. That was a lot of numbers. I actually think as well, from listening to Hilary Duff, I'm surprised she wasn't more successful. I know she is very successful, but I thought she would be more. But I guess maybe, I don't know. She released 5 top 100 singles, the most successful of these being Come Clean, which hit number 35 in the charts and is platinum, and her highest charting peak was With Love, which hit 24 and is also certified gold. She featured on 8 of the Disney soundtrack CDs, and finally, she left Hollywood Records in 2010. That feels really late. Was she there that long? Actually started releasing music with a new label in 2014, only to not release any more music from 2015. So it's nearly been 10 years without any Hilary Duff music, which brings us to the scale, and I hope you guys are excited about this one because you are in store for a treat, as Hilary Duff is almost Disney's golden child. Almost. You see that little tip at the top there? Not quite. But again, we're saving that for someone special. And my girlfriend definitely has an opinion on this one. She says she had a significant impact on the rise in popularity of hair clips and scrunchies, low-rise jeans, deserved a 2015 main pop girl moment. So we're sleeping on the 2015, whatever she released then, thing, making her Popstar number 5. Bringing us to the next one, I'm getting tired. This is Hilary Duff again, and her sister, Haylie Duff. Haylie Duff starred as Amy Saunders in Lizzie McGuire. She's notable for being Hilary Duff's sister, as you can see. That's Hilary Duff, and that's her older sister, Haylie Duff. Haylie Duff appeared on Disney Channel 5 times, 3 of those appearances being on Lizzie McGuire, not Hilary Duff, and the Lizzie McGuire movie, and also an appearance in That's So Raven. And I believe she might have had one of the most unlucky musical careers of anyone ever. Essentially, she featured on 2 Disney Channel soundtracks, with Girl in the Band on the Lizzie McGuire movie soundtrack and A Whatever Life in the Stuck in the Suburbs soundtrack. And that was basically it, because she signed to Hollywood Records, featured on a Disney Mania soundtrack, and left Hollywood Records. She didn't release any official music with Hollywood Records. The biggest thing she did with Hollywood Records was appear in the A Cinderella Story soundtrack, which was a Warner Brothers movie which had a soundtrack made by Hollywood Records from 2004, which hit number 9 in the charts and is certified gold. So a pretty successful soundtrack, but you guessed it, the most successful song from that soundtrack is her as a featured artist to Hilary Duff. In terms of her actual, prospects as a musician, what did she release? Her main song, Screwed, that was meant to be her first single, was recorded and leaked by Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton recorded the song Screwed that was saved for Haylie Duff, so that everyone was like, this is Paris Hilton's song. Basically, there was a big legal battle and drama online at the time. I assume I wasn't there paying attention to it. And then her next big single, which was meant to be the lead single for her album, Holiday, for the album Walk the Walk, was ended up given to her sister for her Most Wanted album. So both of her songs that were written for her to release as a pop star were stolen from her. Yeah, so she's got no music, is essentially the rundown of it. By official music, I mean, have they released their own music? And in her case, not really. She's in a couple soundtracks. She doesn't have her own music that she's officially released as a solo artist. Bringing me to the scale. We don't talk about Haylie Duff. My girlfriend says, is there anyone who actually has an opinion on Haylie Duff? That's mean. Why did you... Which brings us to our next artist. This is none other than Raven Baxter's boyfriend, Devin Carter, or Jordan McDaniel. No, is it Jordan McDaniel or Jonathan McDaniel? Jonathan McDaniel. I'm gonna just pretend I got that right. Or as he's also known, Lil J, with a whopping 258 Spotify listens. Now, I just want to say, I've actually become a little bit of a fan of Lil J this week. I think we're all sleeping on him. If you want to find a musician, a rapper, who has a kind of unbroken voice, rapping about all the chicks love to scream his name, there is no better artist in the world than Lil J. Signed to Hollywood Records in 2001, interestingly, before he was actually on the Disney Channel, and released his solo album and first single with them, It's the Weekend and All About Jay. Neither of those albums charted, but he also did appear on the Princess Diaries soundtrack, like everyone did, with Ain't Nothing But a She Thing. He obviously had the recurring role as Devon Carter in That's So Raven, Raven's boyfriend, who then actually came back for Raven's Home as well. Released the song True Blue for Pixel Perfect. So he's got one Walt Disney movie soundtrack appearance and one Disney Channel soundtrack appearance. And he left Hollywood Records in 2003, which is where it kind of gets a bit weird. You see, I've actually specifically written his name as Lil J with an apostrophe there. You see, Lil J, I think, kind of rebranded to Lil J without an apostrophe, and has a second Spotify account where he has been releasing music since that first album. So it's only really the first album on this Spotify account. And then he has all his other stuff, which he's still releasing music to this day. I just think, go check him out. When the chicks scream out my name, it's Lil J. And yeah, sorry, I didn't show enough enthusiasm there. We're onto the scale. I am running out of energy a little bit already, but I'm saying he just about made it in. He's not quite in the We Don't Talk About Him era. He had one album with Hollywood Records. It didn't chart, but he appeared on the Disney Channel. I think that's pretty good going, which makes him officially number 6 on this list. Bring us to the next one. Alison McCullough. I actually don't know how to pronounce their name. I've been trying to work it out for weeks. And of course, her sister, AJ McCullough. We have none other than Ali and AJ, who also, similarly to Hilary Duff, have 1.6 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Ali and AJ are a band consisting of Ali and AJ, sisters, and signed to Hollywood Records in 2003. Now, I think they're an example of artists who were like on the Hollywood Records roster that then went on to star on Disney Channel shows. Of course, we had Ali starring as Keely Teslo in Phil of the Future, while AJ mostly made cameos in shows, but they did also both star in the movie Cowbells. They released 3 albums with Hollywood Records, and they have 5 top 100 singles, with the one you probably know, Potential Breakup Song, being their most successful, which hit number 17 in the charts in the US and is double platinum. They went on to feature in 7 Disney Channel soundtracks, including Do You Believe in Magic, their cover appearing in Now You See It and Wizards of Waverly Place, and Walking on Sunshine, also their cover, appearing on That's So Raven 2, the soundtrack, and Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure. This was all before featuring in 3 Walt Disney movie soundtracks, again with Walking on Sunshine appearing in Herbie Fully Loaded. And, oh my god, there's so much. Did you guys take a break? They did 6 of these Disney Mania and Radio Disney soundtracks before leaving Hollywood Records. That was the point I was trying to get to this whole time in 2010. So they did all of that in about 7 years. Which brings us to the scale. Where do Ali and AJ land on the scale? Without a doubt, they made it into the will. They were, did you see how many numbers I had to read out there? Which makes them the movie that shaped my girlfriend's brain as a 7-year-old, and the tune Potential Breakup Song was a cultural reset, officially making them the 7th Disney Channel pop star that we are going to go through. Which brings us to the next artist. I never know how to say her name. Hayden Panettiere. She starred as Maddie Dolan in The Tiger Cruise and sung the song My Hero Is You in this movie. She also did signed for Hollywood Records and did 3 Walt Disney movie soundtracks where she sung songs for Ice Princess, The Bridge to Terabithia, and my favorite movie of all time, almost, Cinderella Free, A Twist in Time. She sings the end credits song for Cinderella Free, A Twist in Time. That is Hayden Panettiere. She also sung Cruella de Vil for Disney Mania 5, and there was rumors online that she was recording a new album, her first album, matter of fact, in 2008, with songs like Wake Up and Your New Girlfriend and Go To Girl, all songs that she released in other forms. But it never happened, and she left Hollywood Records in 2008, and hasn't really released any new official music since then. I mean, she's been on the TV show Nashville, where she plays the character Juliet Barnes and does some singing on that, but not really released any like official music. So I think she's just pursuing her acting career, which power to her. Where does she land on the scale though? That is the question. We are gonna say she is, yeah, I'm saying she counts. We talk about her a little bit. My girlfriend says, who cares about her music? Scream 4 was great, which makes her number 8. Who's next? Jesse McCartney. Oh, I have so many opinions on Jesse McCartney. Let's get into it. He has nearly 3 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Yeah, Jesse McCartney he's him. I find this one such an interesting case. He signed to Hollywood Records in 2003 and appeared as himself on the Disney Channel. Like, he shows up in like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and Hannah Montana as Jesse McCartney. And I just think, just take a look at this man, okay? Or boy, I guess, at the time. I'm stealing my girlfriend's opinion here, spoilers for what she's gonna say later, but they had their own blueprint for Justin Bieber here. I've listened to his music. He releases music like Justin Bieber. He released 3 albums with Hollywood Records, all of which kind of like landed around 15th in the charts, and 8 singles that broke into the top 100, with Beautiful Soul hitting number 16 and is gold, and his single Leavin' broke into the top 10 and is certified platinum in the US. Like, he had everything going for him, but for some reason, Justin Bieber came along on his own and just did better, I guess. But either way, he still did very well for himself, and he featured on 5 Disney Channel soundtracks. The most notable song of these is She's No You, which featured on That's So Raven 2 and Hannah Montana, the soundtrack. And he also featured in 3 Walt Disney movie soundtracks. Once again, The Princess Diaries, making a return here with The Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement. He also featured on just loads of Disney soundtracks. Finally, he left Hollywood Records in 2012 and has been releasing music with a different label since then. Where does he land on the scale? It's no surprise, he's pretty high up. He did a lot of stuff with Disney, and I think he deserves to be more than in the will. As my girlfriend said, you were a sweet, sensitive heartthrob who walked so 2009 Justin Bieber could run. Officially making you the 9th. The next one we have is none other than Vanessa Hudgens. Did you know Vanessa Hudgens appeared as a character called Corey in Sweet Life of Zack and Cody? If you didn't, then that more knowledge, the better, I guess. So Vanessa Hudgens has 3.2 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and I don't think it's a huge surprise to anyone that it's mostly because she starred as Gabriella in High School Musical. Because of that, she has 3 top 2 Disney Channel albums. You see, High School Musical 1 and High School Musical 2 both charted at number 1 in the charts, with the first High School Musical being quintuple platinum, and High School Musical 3, as you may be able to tell here, actually finished in number 2 in its peak in the charts, but still a very impressive feat. And she had 12 top 100 singles in the Billboard Top 100, Hot 100, just from High School Musical. The most successful of these was Breaking Free, which hit number 4 and is certified gold. And it goes, we're breaking free, we're sorry. No, okay, I'm gonna cut that. She also had the single What Time Is It, which broke into top 10 as well, hitting number 6 and also being certified gold. She also, though, did music of her own. She signed to Hollywood Records in 2006 and released 2 albums which both broke into the top 40 of the charts. And V, her most successful one, is certified gold in the US. She also has 3 top 100 singles, with Come Back to Me and Say Okay also both being certified gold and landing in like the 50s in the charts. She featured on 4 of the Disney soundtracks from Disney Mania and Radio Disney, and finally left Hollywood Records in 2008. I actually think her music as well, by the way, is a little bit underrated, to be honest. I listened to it. I'm really surprised it wasn't more successful than it is. I don't know if she was just having to live in the shadow of Gabriella. She's done all right for herself since then, though. While she hasn't released any official music, like any solo music, she's been in a lot of soundtracks. She was in Tick Tick Boom. She also did some like other projects that I've forgotten about now that my brain is needing to remember them. And that is what brings us to the scale where it's going to be no surprise that Gabriella Montez, Vanessa Hudgens, is almost Disney's golden child, but not quite, because again, we're saving that for someone special. Who might that special someone be? Well, let's get to my girlfriend's opinion first. She says, Till July is a bunch of bullshit. I'm sorry.
Like, yeah, people are gonna die. It's just terrible, but like, inevitable?
Sneaker Night slapped though. Making her officially the 10th Disney Channel pop star. We are into double digits. If you were here on double digits, make sure to let us know in the comments. Which brings us to a special someone that you all know and love. The one, the only, Hannah... Oh, it's Jordan Pruitt. This is Jordan Pruitt performing at the Disney Channel Games. You might think that was a bit. I genuinely thought that was Hannah Montana coming up. I saw the stage. I was like, oh, it's Hannah Montana. So Jordan Pruitt has 100,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and signed to Hollywood Records in 2005. She performed on the Disney Channel Games, her basically only appearance on the Disney Channel, and featured in 2 Disney Channel soundtracks. She released 2 albums with Hollywood Records, and the first of these, No Ordinary Girl, hit 64 in the charts, the second of which did not chart at all. And I've listened to this album. It came out in 2006, and none of the songs on it would seem out of place on Taylor Swift's self-titled album. So they could have had their own Taylor Swift here. But she has the blonde hair, country music, everything is in place to have your own Taylor Swift that was gonna move into pop at some point. Didn't happen. Again, just another confusing one. She had 2 top 100 singles with Jump to the Rhythm hitting 54 in the US Billboard Hot 100. And she also featured on Disney Mania twice and Radio Disney once. So again, this is an artist that, despite the fact she wasn't appearing on the Disney Channel, was being pushed by Disney. She also sings Take to the Sky from Tinkerbell and the Lost Treasure, one of many Tinkerbell soundtrack appearances from Disney Channel stars, before leaving Hollywood Records. And actually, the next thing she did after this was she went on The Voice in 2012 and then announced her retirement from music in 2017. Also, trigger warning, Jordan Pruitt in recent years has actually accused her manager back from when she was with Hollywood Records of essaying her when she was a teenager, and has sued both Hollywood Records and Disney for failing to prevent this abuse from happening. And hope she's okay, but there are no updates on this case as of September 2019. Which brings us to the scale, very mellowly. Jordan Pruitt, she's almost in the will. Not quite, but she is, which makes her officially the 11th Disney Channel pop star. Bringing us to none other than Corbin Bleu. Let's talk about Corbin Bleu. Now, Corbin Bleu has 843,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Again, mostly because he is Chad in High School Musical and High School Musical 2 and High School Musical 3. Interestingly, Chad doesn't actually have any musical numbers in the first High School Musical, but that was quick to change when he signed to Hollywood Records in 2006 and featured in 7 Disney Channel soundtracks following that. The first of these was actually Push It to the Limit, which appears in Jump In, and then obviously he got a few musical numbers in High School Musical 2. 2 of which actually achieved quite a large amount of success, being What Time Is It and I Don't Dance, both which reached the top 100 in the US charts. And he's also on the Hannah Montana soundtrack, he's also in High School Musical 3 soundtrack, he's in Minutemen. He also made 2 albums of Hollywood Records, the most successful of these being Another Side, which hit number 36 in the US charts. His second album, Speed of Light, did not chart. And he also had a single, obviously I mentioned earlier, Push It to the Limit, which hit number 14 and is certified gold. He also has a bunch of songs in the bubbling Hot 100, which is essentially the 101st, 102nd, 103rd, 104th, etc. in the US charts. They basically have a chart for that, where if you just missed out, you get in their own chart. He has a bunch of songs that break into the top 10, top 20 of that. He's obviously featured in both Disney Mania and Radio Disney, to no one's surprise, and left Hollywood Records after 3 years in 2009. He has not released any official music since then, except for his one musical appearance where he came back for High School Musical, the musical, the series, and sung Different Way to Dance, which brings us to the scale. Oh my god, I almost tripped up there, sorry about that. Corbin Bleu officially made it into the will. And my girlfriend says, remember that time that Corbin Bleu loved jump roping? Officially making him the 12th Disney Channel pop star. Bringing us on to the one, the... No, okay, I think... Bring us to the one, the only... This is or as we actually call her in the real world, Miley Cyrus. Just with 55 million monthly listeners she has, nothing that crazy. And I'm actually going to have to split Miley in 2. Firstly, she actually released a bunch of music with Disney as Hannah Montana. That 55 million monthly listeners is just as Miley Cyrus. She has a whole separate Spotify account, her Hannah Montana Spotify account. How many monthly listeners does it have?
3.7.
Obviously, yeah, she starred as Hannah Montana in Hannah Montana. If you didn't know that, she sung the theme tune for Hannah Montana as well, being the best of both worlds, which just so happens to be a platinum record which hit 92 at its peak in the US charts. She had an intro theme song chart Who else is doing that? She actually made 8 albums as Hannah Montana. 8. That's including the soundtracks and the studio albums and like remix albums and live albums, 6 of which broke into the top 10. That's including like a remix album made it into a top 10 in there. That's just ridiculous. And of these albums, she also had 3 number ones, the first of which being the first Hannah Montana, which hit number 1 and is triple platinum. She also had Hannah Montana 2, which hit number 1 and is quadruple platinum. And finally, she had Hannah Montana the movie, which hit number 1 and is double platinum. Are you guessing she had any big singles? Yeah, she had 20. 20 top 100s. The biggest of these is I'm just having fun, I'm just having fun, I'm just having fun, which is certified platinum and hit number 10. Also, one of these top 100 Disney Channel singles is her song for Disney's Friends for Change, which she did as Hannah Montana with Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, and the Jonas Brothers, called Send It On. And I think this song hit like number 20 in the charts. And finally, she featured on 6 radio Disney soundtracks. Bringing us to everything she did as herself. You know, when she's not playing a fictional character, she was also releasing music, because when did she have time to sleep? She signed Hollywood Records in 2006 as Miley Cyrus, and with Hollywood Records released 4 albums. So just anyone counting, that's 12 in total. She did 8 as Hannah Montana, 4 as Miley Cyrus, and all 4 of her albums broke into the top 3. Meet Miley Cyrus, the first one, hit number 1 and is quadruple platinum. Breakout also hit number 1 and is double platinum. She had an EP which hit number 2 and is triple platinum. Like, she just had a lot of good stuff with them. And of course, 17 top 100. Anyone counting again? 37 top 100 singles. 37! I think about 5 of these broke into the top 10 as well, with The Climb hitting number 4 and being sextuple platinum. That's 6. And she had Party in the USA, which crazily never hit number 1 in the charts. It peaked at number 2. But it is a certified diamond record. That means there have been 10 million sales, or like 10 million equivalent streams of this record. Anyway, she also appeared in 2 Disney Mania and 2 Radio Disney soundtracks, and had 3 Walt Disney movie soundtrack appearances. The most significant of these probably being her appearance in Bolt, where she plays the main character Penny, and has the song I Thought I Lost You on the Bolt soundtrack. She left Hollywood Records in 2010, and for anyone who wanted their day completely ruined, this was all before she was 18. And she is now releasing music with a new label, which honestly might just be the understatement of the century. I think it's fair to say that Miley Cyrus has just become more and more of a phenomenon since she's left Disney. You know, there's songs like Wrecking Ball, have you heard it? Her first number 1 hit. There's also Flowers, which hit number 1, has now won her 2 Grammys. She's got multiple number 1 albums since she's left Hollywood Records. She's just 55 million monthly listeners on Spotify. She's one of the biggest pop stars in the world. Which brings us to the scale I've been excited about this one. Miley Cyrus is off the charts! My girlfriend says she is the most talented and iconic of the Disney pop girlies. Her autobiography, Miles to Go, was my Bible. And she's officially the 13th pop star in this video. And I don't know about you, but that was a whole lot of energy to go through. Let's take a little breather, get someone a little unknown, you know, like... Let's talk about the Jonas Brothers. You know, just the 17 million monthly listeners on Spotify for the Jonas Brothers. So the Jonas Brothers consist of Kevin, Joe, and Nick. In age order, that is Kevin, Joe, and Nick. I actually thought Joe was the oldest, so I don't know what you should do with that information, but... Now, they signed to Hollywood Records in 2006, but that wasn't actually their first thing they ever did. They were an artist before all of this, and they were actually signed to Columbia Records, where they released their first album. You know, the first album that has not 1 but 2 busted covers on it? How can you have 2 covers from the same band in 1 album? That's just ridiculous. Anyway, this album didn't actually do particularly well, and Columbia dropped them from their roster, so Hollywood bought the rights to them and this album, in what was probably a very smart decision looking back in hindsight. Now, their first appearance in the Disney Channel was singing The Chosen One, the American Dragon Jake Long theme tune. This was for season 2 onwards. In season 1, it was sung by the band called Mavin, and that was their first appearance on the Disney Channel. Then the year 3000 started airing during the ad breaks and stuff, and everyone got to know who the Jonas Brothers were. Then they went on to sing Kids of the Future for the Meet the Robinsons soundtrack, obviously a Walt Disney movie soundtrack. It's a rite of passage. And then they finally starred as Connect Free in Camp Rock. So they starred as a fictional band of brothers, I believe called the Grey Brothers, in that movie. This led to them featuring in 5 Disney Channel soundtracks. I do want to say though, with that said, Camp Rock, they mostly featured as solo artists. It was mostly Joe's movie, so Joe is mostly featured as a solo artist. I believe Nick has a solo song in there as well. They don't actually have too many songs as a group in there, but they do have 5 Disney Channel soundtracks, and They achieved 2 top 40 Disney Channel singles from those 5 soundtracks, with Play My Music from Camp Rock hitting number 20 and being certified platinum in the charts, and We Rock from Camp Rock also hitting number 30, so both in the top 40. They also starred as themselves in Jonas Brothers Living the Dream and Jonas LA. They didn't just make one show about them, Disney made 2. So Jonas Brothers Living the Dream is like a reality show about them, then Jonas LA is a sitcom. They also sung the theme tune for Jonas LA, which isn't particularly shocking, called Live to Party, and Jonas LA had its own whole soundtrack, which they also released as a studio album, but it was also the soundtrack for this TV show, so it's part of the 5 Disney Channel soundtracks, but it's also part of the 4 top 10 albums, because that album actually charted at number 7. But their biggest success story from these top 10 albums was a little bit longer. Their number 1 album, which is now certified platinum, and also Lines, Vines, and Trying Times hit number 1 in the US chart. Finally, they have 16 top 100 singles, including Burning Up, which hit number 5 and is double platinum. And of course, they feature in Disney Mania and Radio Disney, 7 soundtrack features in total. And also, they were nominated for Best New Artist at the Grammys in 2009. This is our first Grammy Award nomination, and lost out to Adele. And what's she doing with her career now? Then they took a hiatus and left Hollywood Records in 2011, but they have also since reunited in 2019, where they are releasing music with a new label. Sucker obviously has been the big hit from them returning. It's their first number 1 single, which is, again, weird that their first number 1 single came after they left Disney. That's just a really weird correlation I've started noticing. That isn't quite all, though, when it comes to the Jonas Brothers. You see, they also did quite a bit of solo stuff with Disney. So let's just take you through some of their solo careers. Firstly, we have Joe Jonas. Joe Jonas has 2 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and he starred as Shane Gray in Camp Rock, obviously part of Connect 3. And because of that, he appears in 2 top 3 Disney Channel soundtracks. Interestingly, both the Camp Rock soundtracks hit number 3 in the charts at their peak. The first one's platinum, the second one's gold, but they both peaked at number 3. I just find that to be a weird correlation. He also has 2 top 40 Disney Channel singles from that, the most successful of these being This Is Me, which hit number 9 and is certified platinum. And then also he did a solo album with Hollywood Records called Fast Life, which hit number 15 in the charts and had a hit single from it, See No More, which hit 92. That was his only album with Hollywood Records and his only charting single with Hollywood Records. He also sung a song called Make a Wave with Demi Lovato for Disney's Friends for Change, which hit number 84 in the charts. I also want to bring up that Joe Jonas did do some solo stuff as well with his band DNCE, and they had the song Cake by the Ocean, which was a massive hit. So he's had some success, no matter what he's done, basically. Which brings us to his brother, Nick Jonas. See, Nick Jonas formed a band called Nick Jonas and the Administration, which is him and a bunch of other guys. They also released an album with Hollywood Records called Who I Am, which is a top 10 hit, and it had a single also called Who I Am, which was the lead single from the album, which hit number 73 in the charts. This also appears in Radio Disney Jams Volume 12. Finally, he of course appeared as Nate Gray in Camp Rock, where he also has a song called Introducing Me, which is obviously with Disney and hit 92 and is certified gold. That's his only single from the Camp Rock movies, and of course, again, he left Hollywood Records in 2011. Which brings us to the scale. The Jonas Brothers are Disney's golden child. Yeah, they are, of course, they're Disney's golden child. They had 2 TV shows made for them. My girlfriend says everyone fancied one and hated the other 2. That was simply the way. And I was just thinking about this, because there's 3 of them. I'm gonna say they're 3 artists on the scale, making them 14, 15, and 16th.
Well, counting Kevin as one is this right?
No. Hear me out. There's Nick Jonas, there's Joe Jonas, and then there's the Jonas Brothers as a collective. So yeah, now we're up to 16. Who's next? We've got none other than Demi Lovato. Oh my God, I need a break. What has, oh my God, 30 million monthly listeners. I actually, again, this is another one where I don't think I realized how big Demi Lovato was until I listened to the song Heart Attack, and I was like, she wrote that song? So she signed to Hollywood Records in 2008, pretty much exactly as she started. It was just after her first appearance on the Disney Channel. And then she got her big break as Mitchie Torres in Camp Rock. Now, obviously, we've kind of gone through Camp Rock a little bit, but to say it again, both the Camp Rock albums hit number 3 in the charts, and the song This Is Me hit number 9, which was her highest peak from the Camp Rock album. She also starred as Sunny Monroe in Sunny with a Chance, did the theme tune for Sunny with a Chance, and including all of this, she was in 4 soundtracks. Obviously, the Sunny with a Chance soundtrack, both the Camp Rock soundtracks, and also did 2 songs for Disney's Friends for Change. She had 3 singles from among all this that broke into the top 100. As I kind of just said earlier, the biggest one of these was This Is Me from Camp Rock, and also 6 top 10 albums. She made 6 albums with Hollywood Records. That's like, I mean, it's not as many as Miley Cyrus, because she did loads as Hannah Montana, but it's still quite a significant amount as a solo artist. Her second album, Here We Go Again, hit number 1 and is certified gold. And she also had her self-titled Demi, which hit number 3 and is double platinum, which led to her achieving 25 top 100 singles. Her second biggest hit was Heart Attack, which hit number 10 and is quintuple platinum. But her biggest hit in terms of the US charts and certifications is Sorry Not Sorry, which hit number 6 and is septuple platinum. That is 7 times platinum. I think that's the word for it. Finally, she featured in 3 Walt Disney movie soundtracks, one of them being Tinkerbell and the Lost Treasure. She also, no, sorry, I don't know why I highlighted Tinkerbell and the Lost Treasure there. I'm not joking here, sings the end credits song in Frozen. She sings Let It Go at the end of Frozen. I mean, she was a well-established artist by 2013. Let's not beat around the bush, but that is one of the most famous things, on top of featuring in 6 Disney soundtracks before leaving Hollywood Records in 2018. She was with Hollywood Records for quite some time. As you saw, she released 6 albums with them, so she was with them for a while. And now she is releasing music with a new record label. I think she's releasing with Island Records now. I also just want to clarify, though, to make this a bit more concise. Some of the albums in here, some of these 6 albums were like collaborative efforts with Hollywood Records and Island Records. I have no idea how that works, but she did that. So a few of the albums in there were collaborative records. Now she's solely releasing with Island Records. So, let's get to the scale. Where does she land in the scale? She is Disney's golden child. I've actually said Demi is Disney's golden child. I think not many people did more music with Disney than her, and my girlfriend says has touched so many lives, both here on Earth and in the extraterrestrial world.
Go on and try to tear me down.
And that makes her the 17th artist in this video. The next one, it's Selena Gomez. Did they stop producing massive artists for 1 second? Let's go. Let's talk about Selena Gomez. So actually, I'm going to start with Selena Gomez and The Scene, her band, which has 11 million monthly listeners still to this day. They consisted of her and some other people. They signed to Hollywood Records in 2008, and they released 3 albums, of which all of them made it into the top 10. The most successful of those was When the Sun Goes Down, which hit number 3 in the charts, but Kiss and Tell is certified platinum, while When the Sun Goes Down wasn't certified platinum, so they had success in different ways. They also had, the group, these guys also had 7 top 100 singles, with Naturally hitting 29 and being quintuple platinum, Who Says hitting 21 and being triple platinum, and her biggest hit, or their biggest hit, Love You Like a Love Song, being 6 times platinum, or sextuple platinum. And they went on their big tour, the We Own the Night tour, before going on hiatus in 2012. And they have not released any music since 2011. I assume they have broken up, but there hasn't actually been an official announcement. They're just on hiatus still. Which actually brings us to Selena Gomez as a solo artist, who has 38 million monthly listeners. She obviously starred as Alex Russo in Wizards of Waverly Place, where she sung did I not include the fact she sung the theme tune? Apparently not. Well, it should have been there, that she sung Everything Is Not What It Seems. I bet it's going to be the next bullet point now. Everything Is Not What It Seems is the Wizards of Waverly Place theme tune. That is one of 3 soundtracks she appears on. Obviously, she sings a bit on the Wizards of Waverly Place soundtrack, which actually hit number 24 in the US Billboard 200. And her version of Magic, It's Magic, hit 61 and is certified gold, and sings the Shake It Up theme tune for Shake It Up. She sings that. She also sings Fly to Your Heart from the Tinkerbell movies. That is her solo Walt Disney movie soundtrack appearance. And is featured on 5 of these soundtracks. Which brings us to her albums. She released Stars Dance. That was the main soul album she did with Hollywood Records as a solo artist, and that hit number 1. She also did a greatest hits album called For You, which hit number 24, and that is on top of her 5 top 100 singles as a solo artist. Come and Get It hit number 6 in the US charts and is quintuple platinum, and Heart Wants What It Wants also hit number 6 and is quintuple, no, that's 5. quadruple, and is quadruple platinum. She obviously left Hollywood Records in 2014 and is now releasing music with a new label. And just for context, if you somehow didn't know this, Selena Gomez is still a massive superstar celebrity. She, similarly to Miley Cyrus and the Jonas Brothers, achieved her first #1 single after leaving Hollywood Records and Disney, and is to this day still the most followed American and most followed pop star on Instagram. Which brings us to the scale. Where does she land in the scale? Yeah, it's going to be no surprise to anyone. Selena Gomez is also Disney's golden child, making her officially my girlfriend's personal favorite, saying Revival was the greatest pop album of 2015 and that she feels personally bonded to her through a weird sort of parasocial relationship that has existed since I was 7 and I cannot control. That was a very long thing to write, which makes her number 18. Okay, and I think now, finally, we might get a little bit of a break. No, it's still a pretty... We've got China and McClain. China has 3 million monthly listeners on Spotify. She actually made her first appearance in Hannah Montana and also appeared in Jonas LA in 2009. And her song Your Biggest Fan from the Jonas LA soundtrack, appears in the Jonas LA soundtrack, being her first official song ever. But let's get into what she did mainly. She obviously starred as China Parks in Ant Farm. You probably know her for that. And signed to Hollywood Records in the same year before featuring on 7 Disney Channel soundtracks. So as I mentioned, she's got Your Biggest Fan from Jonas LA. There's the Ant Farm soundtrack, which hit 26 in the charts. The biggest hit from that album is her solo single, Calling All the Monsters, which hit number 86 in the Billboard Hot 100. But I think it's fair to say the biggest thing... Oh, that is what I just said, actually, matter of fact. That was her charted single. And then she left Hollywood Records. So that was basically the only single she released with Hollywood Records, and it was technically part of the Ant Farm soundtrack, but I also think it was a solo single for her. But as you may be able to tell, we haven't gone through all of the soundtracks, and that's because despite leaving Hollywood Records, she's still part of Disney Channel and actually starred as Uma in Descendants 2 and obviously Descendants 3 and the recent Descendants, The Rise of Red. Because of that, she has 2 top 100 Disney Channel albums, being Descendants 2, which hit number 6 in the charts and is gold, and Descendants 3, which hit number 7, and 4 top 100 Disney Channel singles in What's My Name is the most notable one of those probably, which hit number 61 and is certified platinum. She's now releasing music with a new label and actually officially released her first solo EP with Humana Media recently, but I have no idea who or what they are because I can't find any information about Humana Media online. Which brings us to the fact that she also has a band with her sisters, who are now known as Free, with 3 eyes. They currently have 81,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Free actually started, though, as the Free McClain Girls. That was their original name. A long time ago, their mum was a songwriter, their dad was a producer, and a tale older than time. They released a few songs to YouTube and MySpace, and when China got onto the Disney Channel, things started to work out a little better for them, which is why they signed to Hollywood Records in 2011. As you just saw there, Sierra and Lauren both appeared in Ant Farm, and a fun little fact is because China's character in Ant Farm is called China, they were both called Sierra and Lauren in Ant Farm as well, but just also spelt differently, like they spelt China with a Y. I think Sierra was spelt with a Y and Lauren was spelt differently, as I can't actually remember, but that was a fun little bit they did there. Then they changed their name to the McClain Sisters. This is where they released 2 songs for Disney Channel soundtracks, having 2 on the Ant Farm soundtrack and also a song on a Shake It Up I Heart Dance soundtrack, and made their solo Walt Disney movie soundtrack appearance with The Great Divide appearing in Secret of the Wings, the Tinkerbell movie, where Tinkerbell meets her twin sister. Long-lost twin sister, I should say. They also sang the song Rise for Disney's Friends for Change. And then, of course, they left Hollywood Records in 2014, which caused them to change their name again to McClain. They simplified it. They just went to McClain, and they started releasing music independently around the same time. That was not for very long. They went on hiatus pretty much immediately after that, and have since, as you can probably tell, changed their name again to Free, where they have actually returned, and they're doing music with Disney again. They did Calling All the Monsters, the China song, Calling All the Monsters, Calling All the Monsters. They remixed it for the Under Wraps movie that came out in 2021. There's no new official music, though, since 2021 from them. Chyna's doing solo stuff as well, so I think we could take it there back on another hiatus. Which finally brings us to the scale. Ultimately, I don't think Lauren and Sierra really count, so I'm just going to rank Chyna, and I think she is pretty much almost Disney's golden child. She starred in loads of stuff, she did loads of soundtracks, she just didn't do that much solo music with them, but I still think they did try and push her. Looking forward to the next inevitable rebrand. I think that's in reference to the band of sisters, because they change their name every 4 years. She is number 19. I'm losing track of the numbers now. Which brings us to our next artist. We have none other than Bridgit Mendler. So Bridgit Mendler still has 3.6 million monthly listeners. And I say still in this case because she hasn't released a song in about 10 years. She starred as Teddy Duncan in Good Luck Charlie. That's probably the main thing she did. She obviously had like a role as Juliet in Wizards of Waverly Place and Penny in Jonas LA, but that was her main thing. And Hang In There Baby, which she sung, is the Good Luck Charlie theme tune. But before that, she appeared in 2 Walt Disney movie soundtracks. She actually sung How to Believe for The Great Fairy Rescue, the 3rd Tinkerbell movie, and This Is My Paradise for Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2. And around this time, she signed to Hollywood Records and starred as Olivia White in Lemonade Mouth, one of 4 Disney Channel soundtracks she appeared in. Obviously, Lemonade Mouth did very well. It hit number 4 in the US charts. She also achieved 3 top 100 Disney Channel singles. I believe these all come from Lemonade Mouth, and I think Determinate was the biggest one, hitting number 51 in the US charts. And this was all before she released her first album, Hello, My Name Is, which hit number 30 in the US charts, and also achieved a biggest single, Ready or Not, which hit 49 and is platinum. She did a couple songs for Disney Mania and Radio Disney. She also had a Disney Friends for Change song called We Can Change the World, before finally leaving Hollywood Records in 2015. She returned to start releasing music with a new label in 2016, but has not released any official music since 2017. Now, I actually think Bridgit Mendler is such an interesting case because, well, she's just the perfect example of someone they pushed to become a pop star. They gave her a movie, they gave her a TV show, they gave her a theme tune, they gave her an album, and she just didn't want to do it. She was just like, this life isn't for me. And, well, you know, she hasn't released any music since, and it's not because she can't. She just doesn't want to. I'm pretty sure she owns a space company now. So, like, fair play to her. I think she has a PhD. Don't quote me on that. I think actually there was a big apology on her Twitter recently that she doesn't have a PhD. Where does Bridgit Mendler land? Obviously, she is pretty high. Yeah, she's getting close to Disney's golden child. My girlfriend says she is a CEO of a space company. And also she has a banging 2016 EP entitled Atlantis. Go stream. Which makes her the 20th... Oh, I nearly fell. She's the 20th Disney Channel pop star. Who's next? This is none other than Ross Lynch. Ross Lynch first appeared as himself in Moises Rules, a TV show from 2009. And here he is. He has 2.2 million monthly listeners on Spotify, but that is mostly from his work as a Disney Channel soundtrack artist, I'm not gonna lie. Firstly, he starred as Austin Moon in Austin Alley, and sung the theme tune, Can't Do It Without You, obviously with Laura Marano. He featured in 4 top 100 Disney Channel soundtracks. That obviously includes 2 Austin Alley soundtracks, the first of which hit 27 in the US charts, and the Teen Beach Movie soundtracks, which both broke the top 10, and the first of which hit number 3 in the US charts and is certified gold. He signed to Hollywood Records in 2012, which was a little bit before the first Teen Beach Movie, and then obviously, yeah, he starred as Brady in the Teen Beach Movie, which I think is an underrated Disney Channel movie, to the point where I would go as far to say it might be the best Disney Channel movie. And the song Cruisin' for a Bruisin' hit 82. He went on to leave Hollywood Records in 2018 and is now releasing music with a new label with his brother. I say this with the context, though, that pretty much that was all his solo work that he ever did. And most of the music he released was with his brothers. Which brings us to his brother's band, R5. So this is a band consisting of Ross Lynch, Riker Lynch, Rocky Lynch, Rydell Lynch, and some random person that isn't a Lynch. One of these two, these brunettes, is not related to them, but I don't know which one isn't. So him and his brothers and sister and random other guy signed to Hollywood Records in 2012. They released 2 top 40 albums and just a whole load of EPs, but their second album was their biggest performer, which actually broke the top 10, hitting number 6 in the US charts, called Sometime Last Night. They also featured on 2 Disney Channel soundtracks, one of those being Austin and Ally, and the other of them being the Teen Beach Movie 2, or as they call it, Teen Beach 2. And they sung Let's Not Be Alone, All Right, for Radio Disney Music Awards soundtrack. They went on hiatus in 2018, and essentially what's happened is it's Ross, the one on the far end here, and Riker, who I believe is that one, are now a band called The Drivers Era. And as I said, they're doing stuff there. So yeah, let's get on to this little... Where does Ross Lynch land on the scale? He is almost Disney's golden child. Yeah, they did a lot to push him and make him as big a success as they could. My girlfriend says it just blows my mind that I always confuse this guy with Evan Peters and that they both played Jeffrey Dahmer. Which brings us to the fact that he's number 21. Which brings us to number 22. None other than not him, Bella Thorne. This is Bella Thorne starring as Nancy Lucy in Wizards of Waverly Place. I believe she's Max's girlfriend for one episode. I remember that episode. Actually, I don't know why I'm saying I think I remember it. And what did Bella Thorne get up to with the Disney Channel? So she has 310,000 monthly listeners. And the main thing she did was star as Cece Jones in Shake It Up. There were about 3 Shake It Up soundtracks, and they all broke it into the top 40. They also had an EP called Made in Japan. The most notable of these soundtracks was Shake It Up, Live to Dance, which hit number 13 in the US Billboard 200. She signed to Hollywood Records in 2013 and released 2 top 100 singles. The first and main one of these is Watch Me, which she sung with Zendaya and actually hit number 86 and is certified gold. But the true fans will remember TTYLXOX, where they actually did a mashup with her song, TTYLXOX, and Zendaya's song, which I've annoyingly forgotten the name of when I need to remember it. And like Bella Thorne's was like LMAO with the rest and TTYLXOX, and they like mashed them up. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a really funny thing to say now. I think Bella Thorne won that mashup. Like, she had the better song. Disney gave Bella a better hand than Zendaya, in my opinion. Their careers have gone in different directions, let's just say. And Watch Me is on Radio Disney Jam's 15th birthday edition, my favorite Radio Disney Jams album. She left Hollywood Records in 2017 without releasing an album, and in 2018, she started releasing with her new label. And I'm pretty sure this is a label she owns herself called Filthy Fangs. Which brings me to the scale. She is officially... Yeah, she made it into the will. More than made it into the will. She got a good chunk of that will. My girlfriend says, a mogul, an icon. She was great in that Hefner Tana Mojo music video. And that is number 22, which I think brings us to her counterpart. No, it doesn't. Who is this? This is All-Star Weekend. Do you guys remember All-Star Weekend? My favorite of the Disney Channel pop bands. So All-Star Weekend have 113,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and actually started their Disney career as part of the Radio Disney like next big thing, which is something I will get into. They started as contestants on that and obviously then signed to Hollywood Records in 2009. They performed a song on Sunny with a Chance, their solo Disney Channel appearance, and appeared on 2 Disney Channel soundtracks. That song, Come Down With Love, is on the Sunny With a Chance soundtrack, and also they sing Hey Princess for the Geek Charming movie soundtrack. They featured on 2 Walt Disney movie soundtracks as well, The Last Song and Prom movies. They released 2 albums with Hollywood Records, Suddenly Yours, which came out in 2010, and then All the Way, which came out in 2011 and hit 49 in the charts. They featured on Disney Mania and Radio Disney, as everyone did, and left Hollywood Records in 2012 and started releasing music with a new label, but then they broke up in 2013. I think they actually, matter of fact, started like a GoFundMe or something to try and like help fund their music career after leaving Disney. It just didn't really work out for them after they left Disney, I think it's fair to say. Which brings us to the scale. Where do All-Star Weekend land? I am saying they're just about in there. We talk about them, which makes them officially number 23 on the board. Which brings us to one I'm sure you've been waiting for. None other than Zendaya. Zendaya has 15 million monthly listeners on Spotify, which is incredibly impressive when you find out she is not pursuing music anymore. She obviously also starred in Shake It Up as Rocky instead of Cece, though, because obviously Bella was Cece, and featured on 5 Disney Channel soundtracks. So again, we have the free Shake It Up soundtracks and appears on the KC Undercover soundtrack, which we will get into in a second. She also has a song from the Pixie Hollow Games, which was like a Tinkerbell short TV special. So it isn't really a Walt Disney movie, but it's still like some sort of Walt Disney movie involvement. She signed to Hollywood Records after all this in 2012. She released a solo album called Zendaya, which hit 51 in the charts, but interestingly has seemingly been removed from Spotify now. Similarly to Bella Thorne, she made Watch Me for the Radio Disney Jam's 15th birthday edition soundtrack, and she also has Replay, which hit number 40 and is triple platinum, before finally starring as Casey Cooper in KC Undercover, and of course did the soundtrack for KC Undercover called Keep It Undercover. Since then, she hasn't actually released any official music since her song with Chris Brown called Something New. She could still be signed to Hollywood Records as far as I'm aware, but yeah, there's been no official music. But that's a bit of an understatement when I say she's done no official music, because, well, firstly, Zendaya is definitely pursuing acting. She's in the MCU, she's in Euphoria, where she also sings and has music on Euphoria, and she featured in The Greatest Showman, explaining the insane number of monthly listeners. The Greatest Showman album is obviously a #1 album, and I think is quadruple platinum. And also, Rewrite the Stars, the song she sings with Zac Efron in that movie, is triple platinum. As a person who isn't really doing music is going, she's got a pretty successful music career. Which brings us to the scale, where does Zendaya land? I think she is almost Disney's golden child, yeah. I mean, she had 2 Disney Channel shows that she starred in. Yeah, she's a big Disney Channel star. They wanted her to be the golden girl. Which brings us on to our next which brings us on to my girlfriend's opinion. When I was 12, I thought Replay was the best display of pop artistry and dancing in the world, and I didn't understand why everyone didn't think she was the best dancer of all time. I can speak for all of us when I say we did think she was the best dancer of all time. And officially, the 24th on this list. Which brings us to the next one. We have none other than, not this guy, Olivia Holt. She has 636,000 monthly listeners on Spotify at the time of recording this video, and starred as Kim Crawford in Kickin' It. She featured on 3 Disney Channel soundtracks. She has 3 songs on Girl vs. Monster. She signed to Hollywood Records in 2014 and released her solo self-titled EP called Olivia in 2016, but it did not chart. However, with that said, her single History did have some relative success in Europe for some reason. It charted all over Europe, but never in America. She then went on to have a second Disney Channel show called I Didn't Do It that she starred as Lindy Watson in, and she actually sung the theme tune to it, Time of Our Lives. Now, since all this, she was mostly just kind of releasing a lot of singles and a lot of collaborations with Hollywood Records, some songs with Hollywood Records, some songs without, and then she actually starred in the Marvel show, obviously Marvel's owned by Disney, Cloak and Dagger. She plays the Dagger in that show and sings the song Come Sail Away for the soundtrack. And after releasing a lot of singles and collaborations, she finally left Hollywood Records in 2021, and she is now releasing music with a new label. Which brings us to the scale, where does she land? She is in the will. She is very much in the will. Which brings us to my girlfriend's opinion on the matter. She was great in Cruel Summer, the TV show, and I liked her cover of Today by the Smashing Pumpkins. I don't know what that means. And she is officially the 25th Disney Channel pop star. Which brings us to the next one. Who is next? None other than Coco Jones. This is obviously Coco Jones performing on So Random, and she has 2.6 million monthly listeners on Spotify. So Coco Jones signed to Hollywood Records in 2012, before she actually did anything on the Disney Channel that I'm aware of. And her first appearance was really starring as Roxy Andrews in Let It Shine, obviously outside of her performance on the TV show So Random. This was one of 3 top 40 Disney Channel soundtracks that she appeared in, and the Let It Shine soundtrack was the most successful of these, hitting number 12 in the charts. But she also sings on the Shake It Up, Live to Dance soundtrack from 2012, which hit number 13 in the charts. And I listened to this the other day, and the song Who Done It is still stuck in my head after listening to it. Who got the party started? Who got the party rocking? Who done it? Who done it? Who done it? Done it? I don't know. That song is still stuck in my head. I listened to it like 2 days ago and I can't forget it. She then left Hollywood Records in 2014 and I believe she only did one EP with Hollywood called Made Of in 2013 and it didn't chart. There's not much to say about it. And she is since releasing music with a new label where she has achieved a lot more success than she was ever doing with Hollywood. I think she had a song called I See You, which hit 62 in the charts and is platinum. And more notably, she was nominated in 2024 for 5 Grammys. 5! Including, funnily enough, Best New Artist. How are you nominating her for Best New Artist in the 2024 Grammys when it's well established she's been around since 2012? She's not a new artist. I'm sorry, that's a little rant over. Coco Jones, well done for getting your Grammy nominations and your song I See You is a bop. Let's see where you are on the scale. You are almost making it into the will. You haven't quite made it into the will, but you are still a notable artist. And that makes her the 26th pop star for this video. Let's get on to the next artist. This is Jordan Fisher appearing as Seacat in the Teen Beach movie. Now, you may know Jordan Fisher from the Teen Beach movie. You might recognize him here. He doesn't seem to have done much outside the Teen Beach movie, so that is what we're going to talk about. He then went on to feature on 2 Disney Channel soundtracks. Now, with that said, he didn't sing on the first Teen Beach movie soundtrack. He just features on Teen Beach 2. It's a bit like Corbin Bleu. He didn't have any solo numbers. He was just part of the ensemble numbers in the first one. But Teen Beach 2 obviously hit number 10 in the charts, and he sings the songs Fallin' For Ya, Wanna Be With You, and also has a song with Dove Cameron for Livin' Maddie soundtrack. He did his solo EP with Hollywood Records when he signed in 2015. I think the solo EP actually came out in 2016, and it's called Jordan Fisher, funnily enough. And he has my favorite Walt Disney movie soundtracks of anyone here. So, firstly, he did a duet with Lin-Manuel Miranda for You're Welcome in the end credits of Moana. When you listen to Moana, Jordan Fisher is the one singing You're Welcome with Lin-Manuel Miranda. And also, he plays Robert in Turning Red, the Pixar movie, who's one of the members of Four Town, and therefore sings the song Nobody Like You, which hit 49 in the US charts and is certified platinum. So yeah, pretty cool. He obviously has started releasing music independently since 2019. And there's not been anything new though since 2020. Let's get on to the scale. Where does Jordan Fisher land? He made it into the will. Yeah, he comfortably made it into the will. Good for Jordan Fisher. Which makes him the 27th artist. Next up, we have none other than, if you can guess who this is, congratulations. Do you know who this is?
Sabrina Carpenter.
That is Sabrina Carpenter. Do you recognize her at all?
Yeah.
I don't think she looks anything like herself. She has just a fair few 82 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Let's talk about what she was doing on the Disney Channel. So she signed to Hollywood Records in 2013. 11 years ago, and she featured on 6 Disney Channel soundtracks. The first of these actually being as her character Princess Vivian in Sophia the First. She also has songs on Teen Beach 2 and Adventures of Babysitting, but the main thing she's probably known for is starring as Maya Hart in Girl Meets World. She also sung the theme tune for Girl Meets World with Rowan Blanchard, and also did the Andy Mack theme tune. So she did 2 theme tunes with Disney. She then went on to feature in 2 Walt Disney movie soundtracks, and yeah, she has a song called Can't Blame a Girl for Trying, appearing on the Radio Disney Music Awards soundtrack. Most notably though, she made 4 top 200 albums while with Disney. The most successful of these was Evolution, which hit number 28, and she had a song called Thumbs, which was platinum while with Disney. Since then, she has left Hollywood Records and is releasing music with a new label, where I think it's probably safe to say she's the biggest success story music has produced all year. She has Espresso, Please, 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 and they're both going to be like multiple platinum records, and I'm assuming she's very much on her way to win a Grammy and get a #1 album and all of the above. Which brings us to the scale though. Where does she live on the Disney Channel scale? Because technically all this success came after she left the Disney Channel and when she went on tour with Taylor Swift. So I'm gonna say, yeah, she's still very much. They made 4 albums with her, guys. I don't think you realize how many albums that is. She's on like her 7th album right now. Are you understanding this? My girlfriend says, yeah, everyone loves Espresso, but where were you when Sumi came out? You've been called out, which makes her the 28th artist. Which brings us to none other than Sophia Carson, known most well for starring as Evie in Descendants. This means she features on 3 top 10 albums, being the Descendants albums. Obviously, Descendants 1 hit number 1 and is certified gold. The Descendants 2 and 3 hit 6 and 7 respectively. She also has 4 top 100 songs, the most successful of these being Rotten to the Core, which hit 38 and is certified gold, and It's Going Down from Descendants 2, which hit 77 and is certified platinum. She then joined Hollywood Records in 2016, so that was in between Descendants 1 and Descendants 2, and she released loads of singles in the time between these movies, and finally actually came out of her first album, Sophia Carson, in 2022, but it did not chart, and I believe she's still releasing music with Hollywood Records to this day. I believe she released a single with them in March this year. Which brings us to the scale. Where does she land? None other than, yeah, she's in the will. She's very much in the will. Which makes her the 29th artist. We are so nearly at 30. Which brings us on to... This is Ricky Garcia playing Asher in Girl Meets World. And then his bandmate, none other than Emery Kelly, playing Dax in Dog with a Blog. They make up a band called Forever in Your Mind. They currently have 29,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and consist of Emery, Ricky, and a guy called Liam. Now, this band has an actual familiar story that some of you might have heard before. They were formed by Simon Cowell on The X Factor back in 2013. They didn't go that far on The X Factor, but they were picked up by Hollywood Records in 2015. Ricky actually stars as Naldo Montoya in Best Friends Whenever. He's in that show, while Emery mainly makes cameos in shows. But with that said, Whenever is the Best Friends Whenever theme tune, and they obviously as a band sing that. And they released 2 EPs with Hollywood Records called FIYM and Euphoric. Neither of them charted though. And also they sung another song for the Best Friends Whenever soundtrack called Shake Your Booty. Very interesting thing to have on the Disney Channel. Then they haven't actually released any official music since 2018. Obviously they did their 2 EPs. I think they might have broken up, but they still post on social media like they're together. Like, I don't know, they haven't released any music for 6 years. One of the guys left the band, they replaced him with another guy, but they're just posting like there's nothing wrong. Also, it's a really fun story. These guys were greenlit to star in a show about a vampire boy band by Disney, and I think that is just the most Disney Channel show that never happened, and I bet if they got that, they'd be next level. They wouldn't have 29,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, I'm telling you that. Which brings us to the scale. Where do they land? Okay, yeah, no, they made it. They made it in. I'm going to say they're the 30th for this video. And that brings us to my girlfriend's opinion. She says, well, they're certainly not forever in my mind. And yeah, they are officially number 30. Bringing us on to none other than J.D. McCrary. This is actually J.D. McCrary in KC Undercover playing a young version of Ernie. He has 391,000 monthly listeners at the time of recording this. So J.D. McCrary appeared as young Ernie, as I just said, in KC Undercover in 2016 at the age of 9 years old. I believe actually his first appearance in music world as well was also this year, where he was in Childish Gambino's Awaken My Love album. He's like singing on one of the tracks. I'll try and find it if I can. If you know like this bit in the Childish Gambino song, this is him as like a 9-year-old. He signed to Hollywood Records in 2018 as an 11-year-old. So I'm pretty sure that's the youngest person to ever sign Hollywood Records, and actually made 1 EP with them called Shine, which I've listened to, and it's not bad. It's very clearly made by a 12-year-old, you know? It's a very talented 12-year-old, but it's also still a 12-year-old, you know? The main thing he's done with Disney, though, is he features on the Lion King 2019 soundtrack. He actually plays young Simba in The Lion King, the new Lion King, which, again, interestingly, Childish Gambino, or Donald Glover, is the one who plays older Simba in The Lion King. So, again, there's like a weird connection there. The Lion King soundtrack, to no surprise to anyone, hit number 13 in the US charts. He then left Hollywood Records in 2020, and he is releasing music with a new record label called Pen Play Entertainment now. I don't know anything about this record label. It might be his own record label for all I know. I guess because he's only like 17, he could still become a massive Disney Channel pop star at some point in the future. So I'm gonna say we talk about him a little bit. I know that's maybe a stretch. He didn't really do that much with them, but he's in The Lion King. His first ever appearance on TV was on the Disney Channel as young Ernie. I think if he ever becomes a massive, massive success, we'll all say, oh, did you realize he was on the Disney Channel first? And I was the one who told you first. Let's go. He's number 31. Bringing us to Asher Angel. I'm glad his name was there because I wouldn't have known. He plays Jonah Beck in Andy Mack. So Asher Angel, he has 38,000 monthly listeners, signed Hollywood Records in 2017, and he actually performed on Andy Mack. He sung songs on Andy Mack, but weirdly, there isn't like an official soundtrack for Andy Mack. The music is actually, they just use pop songs and stuff on it. He then left Hollywood Records after like a year. He only did one song with them called Snow Globe Wonderland, but I believe he left Hollywood Records to go to Walt Disney Records, where he released a song called Getaway, and the music video for Getaway is literally just on the Disney Music Vivo account. So I mean, he's still very much with Disney. And more recently, he has the song One on One on the 21st Century's movie Darby and the Dead. So that's obviously with Disney to some extent because Disney owned 21st Century, and he is still releasing music with a new label to this day. He actually did a song with Wiz Khalifa in 2019. So, the more you know. Which brings us to the scale. Where does he land? He is none other. Yeah, he's about made it in. He's just about there. He did like one song with them, but yeah, it's still something. Better than Haylie Maguire. Not Haylie Maguire. Which makes him number 32. Which brings us to the honourable mentions. You see, basically everyone I've spoken about so far, I've seen as like a definitive, like, yeah, they started out on the Disney Channel in some kind of way, and then Disney gave them a contract to be on a record label, or vice versa, where they were given a record label and thrown on the Disney Channel. And it was, in most cases, other than Haylie Duff, it was pretty clear that they were a Disney Channel pop star to some extent. You see, there's a bunch of people who kind of fit the criteria of what I've been going through, where they were on the Disney Channel at some point and had a record deal with Hollywood Records at some point, but I just can't think count. And I went through them on my research, and they obviously don't count, but I wanted to mention them anyway because I did the research, so you have to go sit through it as well. Bringing us to the first one, none other than Regis Philbin. Regis Philbin, yep, you know Regis. So Regis is obviously a television personality from the last century, basically, and guest starred as himself in the famous Jet Jackson. He also appeared as an animated cameo in Lilo and Stitch the series, and appeared in the Disney adjacent show Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show. Does that count? I don't know. Interestingly, he sings a song called Pennies from Heaven in the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire album, which is something that exists. It's made by Disney, and I don't know who wanted it or who asked for it, but it's basically an album of the people who were involved with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire singing songs to do with money. And he released 2 albums with Hollywood Records, both of which broke into the top 100. He's got When You're Smiling, his first one, which hit 54 in the charts, and it's just basically an album of him covering famous songs. And he also had a Christmas album with them, which came out a year later, that hit 74 in the charts. I have no idea when he left Hollywood Records, but he started releasing music with a new label in 2009. Does he count? Absolutely not. He's been releasing music since like 1968 when he released his first album, It's Time for Regis. He sings on TV. He literally just guest starred on a Disney Channel show and happened to have an album with Hollywood Records. He is not a Disney Channel pop star. And also, sadly, Regis Philbin actually passed away from a heart attack in July 2020. Which brings us on to the next honourable mention. You might be thinking, this is an animated show. How does this work? Well, this animated character that we are focusing on here is actually Circe in Hercules, the animated show, played by Idina Menzel. Idina Menzel has 8 million monthly listeners on Spotify. No prizes for guessing what that's for. Now, Idina Menzel started her career in Rent, the Broadway musical which plays Maureen Johnson. She was nominated for a Tony Award because of this and signed to Hollywood Records, Disney's record label, in 1996. She appeared as Circe in the Hercules animated show shortly after this, as I just showed in that clip, and actually did an album with Hollywood Records in the same year called Still I Can't Be Still. And I'm so sorry, Idina. I think you're a very talented musician, but it's not good. It's just not a good album. She was actually dropped from Hollywood Records quite shortly after that album because it didn't perform as well as expected. Has been releasing music with other labels ever since then. She's been doing a lot of solo music since, but the main thing we're going to focus on is the fact she has 2 #1 Walt Disney movie soundtracks. Any guesses to what they are? Yeah, they're Frozen and Frozen 2. And she also achieved 4 top 100 songs as Elsa, with Let It Go being the most notable of these. But interestingly, Let It Go never actually hit #1 in the charts. It peaked at number 5, but it's a certified diamond record now. And she also has For the First Time in Forever, Into the Unknown, Show Yourself. They're all massive hits. They're all like triple platinum and double platinum, and yeah, she's a pretty successful musician. In terms of solo music, she has done a bunch of albums with a bunch of different record labels, but I'm not going to count her as a pop star, but I just felt like I had to include her because she probably has the most well-known song out of every person in this video. Everyone knows Let It Go. So yeah, anyway, the next one, none other than Sterling Knight. So this is actually Sterling Knight's first appearance on the Disney Channel as Lucas in Hannah Montana. Now, I know what you're thinking. Seamus, this is not Sterling Knight. This is Anna Margaret, who is a musician who has 326,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Is this a mistake? Have I accidentally put the slide in the wrong place? No, I actually haven't. Anna Margaret is an artist who also is an actor who signed to Hollywood Records in 2009. But for some reason, despite being an actor-musician who was signed to Hollywood Records, never shows up on the Disney Channel. Like, not once. She did a load of music with the Disney Channel. She actually, basically, you know Starstruck, the movie from 2010? There's something about the sunshine, baby. That's her song. The whole music video for Something About the Sunshine, which she sings on the Disney Music YouTube channel, is just about her being behind the cameras for this song. And I mean, the Starstruck soundtrack, which she features on frequently, hit 23 in the charts. She also features on a Shake It Up soundtrack, but for some reason, she never appeared on a Disney Channel show. And that is why I brought her up with Sterling Knight, who is obviously Christopher Wilde from Starstruck. She has no official music since 2011, and I think most of her songs that she did have been taken off Spotify, but you can actually still see the official music videos for them on YouTube. And I guess that's what brings us to the actual Sterling Knight, the actual Christopher Wilde from Starstruck, who has almost 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. So obviously Sterling Knight appeared and starred as Chad Dylan Cooper in Sunny with a Chance. I probably should have had a little thing saying "and so random" there, but I didn't, so that's a mistake on my part. Also featured on 2 Disney Channel soundtracks, the Sunny with a Chance soundtrack, which hit 163 in the charts, and of course the Starstruck soundtrack. But I just want to clarify something here before we move on very quickly. He doesn't actually sing most of the songs on the Starstruck soundtrack. He only sings the title song Starstruck on that soundtrack. The other songs are performed by a guy called Drew Ryan Scott. Apparently, according to Sterling Knight himself, this was because he joined the cast and production of this movie late. So every other song's performed by another guy who is not important enough to mention in this video. I'm very sorry if you're watching, Drew. He also, sorry, as I said, he has a couple songs on the Sunny with a Chance soundtrack, but he has not pursued music since this brief stint in 2010. Also, really strange, before we move on, this 985,000 monthly listeners is an insanely large number, but it isn't actually on the Sterling Knight Spotify account. It's on the Christopher Wilde Spotify account. They did the same thing they did with Hannah Montana, where they basically made the fictional character a Spotify account. But the reason I bring this up is because this Spotify account seems to have been hijacked by someone who isn't Christopher Wilde from Starstruck, and I don't know if it's just some guy who's actually called Christopher Wilde and somehow has this account and Disney have made a mistake, or if he's intentionally taken this account. This guy is like releasing music on this account and has like 985,000 monthly listeners on this account, and it's just got this like Starstruck music on it, which brings us on to the scale. Yes, plot twist. While Sterling Knight might not count, I believe Christopher Wilde deserves to count as a Disney Channel pop star in the same way Hannah Montana was, because Christopher Wilde is a pop star in my heart. And for that reason, I am saying Christopher Wilde, not Sterling Knight, is a Disney Channel pop star, making him the 33rd Disney Channel pop star in this video. Next up, we have Cole Plant, who is here DJing for the Something to Dance For and TTYLXOX mashup. He's the guy that DJ'd that. He has 6.5 thousand monthly listeners and allegedly appeared as himself. No, he didn't. He did actually do that, and allegedly signed to Hollywood Records in 2011. But I need to clarify, the only source for this is a bunch of Wikipedia articles which seem to be quoting themselves about it. With that said, he did feature on 3 Disney Channel soundtracks in that time and actually composed all of the music for the Disney XD show Max Steel in 2013 and appears as himself in that show as well. Apparently he made an EP with Hollywood Records called Collective, and again, I cannot find any record of it. So, like, again, there's a lot of things saying he did do stuff with Hollywood Records, but I can't find it. If I had more information to prove that he did all this stuff with Hollywood Records, I would have probably included him on the list. But because I can't find it, he isn't included. He is still doing music to this day. Good for him. let's move on to the next one. This is Nobody's Angel. And I believe Nobody's Angel make an appearance in the show Boy Meets World. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Boy Meets World isn't a Disney Channel show. It's a bit of a confusing one because Boy Meets World was made by ABC and then Disney bought ABC while they were making Boy Meets World and they moved Boy Meets World onto the Disney Channel, but it's not really a Disney Channel show. With that said though, its sequel show Girl Meets World is a Disney Channel show. So does this really count? No, that's why they're part of the honourable mentions. But let's talk about Nobody's Angel. They consist of Alitza, Stacy, Amy Sue, and Sarah. They featured on 4 Walt Disney movie soundtracks, including The Princess Diaries, which they had a couple songs on and actually hit 41 and is certified gold in the US charts, and signed to Hollywood Records in 1999. They make 1 Disney Channel soundtrack appearance with their If You Wanna Dance on Up, Up and Away, and also appear on the Radio Disney Volume 3 soundtrack. Their first and eponymous album, Nobody's Angel, hit 184 in the US charts, and since then, Stacy and Amy Sue left the band and were meant to release a second album in 2002, but it never came out, and there has been no music since. They have broken up, I think. Again, most bands don't actually ever say they broke up. They just kind of go on an indefinite hiatus. If they were on a Disney Channel show, this would have been a pretty hefty CV, but they weren't, so I don't think they really count, but, you know. Which brings us on to the next one. We have Martina Stossel in Petito Feo, which I believe means ugly duckling in Spanish. Is this, yeah, I think this is a Spanish artist called Are we doing Spanish art, like foreign artists? And I can't read this. I don't speak Spanish. Okay, well, we have a Spanish artist here. She's very successful, as you can see, but I don't know what any of this says, so I'm gonna move on. Which brings us to Walt Disney Records. So, you see, everyone I've spoken about so far has been signed to Hollywood Records, which is Disney's, like, pop-focused record label. They also have about 7 other record labels, which I haven't even taken you through. The first of these being Walt Disney Records, which is mostly used for, like, soundtracks. It's been around since the 50s, and basically anytime there's a Walt Disney movie, the soundtrack is most likely with Walt Disney Records. Matter of fact, a lot of the artists I've spoken about so far in this video will have music with Walt Disney Records because that's who they do the soundtracks with. It's just like the other people have all done like solo music with Hollywood. For some reason though, there's a few people that were on the Disney Channel that happened to have albums with Walt Disney Records for reasons that I can't really work out. So let's get on to who they are. Firstly, we have none other than Christy Carlson Romano. This is her as Ren Stevens in Even Stevens. Has 14,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and as I said, she starred as Ren Stevens in Even Stevens. But you might know her better for being the voice of Kim Possible, which obviously led to her featuring on 3 Disney Channel soundtracks, one of these being the Kim Possible soundtrack, which actually got 125th in the charts, and signed to Walt Disney Records in 2004. Where she released an album called Greatest Disney TV and Film Hits. This album is basically just a playlist of all of the songs she did while with Disney Channel. Like, it's got her Kim Possible songs, it has a song from like Even Stevens the movie, there's the song from like Zen and Z3 that she has, and then she is also featured on 2 Walt Disney movie soundtracks, being Teacher's Pet and The Princess Diaries 2, Royal Engagement. Are you shocked? The Princess Diaries, everyone did The Princess Diaries. A bunch of these songs also appear on Disney Mania and Radio Disney, and from there she hasn't released any official music. But in a YouTube video in 2021, she claimed that Katy Perry got her record deal. And that hints that there were discussions about getting her a record deal at some stage earlier on in her career. It just never came into fruition. Which brings us to the scale. Christy Carlson Romano, I'm saying, almost made it into the will. No, she didn't. She didn't actually get that close to making it into the will. My girlfriend says, isn't this the woman who has 1 billion podcasts and cooking shows? No idea. And that is her, the 34th pop star in this video. Bringing us on to the next one, none other than Mitchell Musso. You know Mitchell Musso, the one and only, playing Raymond Fig in Life is Rough here. Mitchell Musso has 73,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and is potentially the most confusing person I have got to so far in this video. Obviously starred as Oliver Olken in Hannah Montana, and then signed to Walt Disney Records in 2009, where he released a solo album called Mitchell Musso, which hit 19 in the charts. Like, I'm not joking. If you go through the Wikipedia list of all the Walt Disney Records albums, it's just soundtrack, 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 compilation of soundtrack, 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 Mitchell Musso, soundtrack, 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 compilation of soundtrack. Like, Christy Carlson Romano released an album with Walt Disney Records, but it was kind of like a compilation album of her hits with Disney. So it wasn't like she was releasing a bunch of solo music. It just feels like they like accidentally signed him to the wrong contract and he somehow had to release an album with Walt Disney Records instead of Hollywood Records. I don't get why this happened. He also had the single Hey on this album, which hit 70 in the charts. He features on 6 Disney Channel soundtracks, with the first of these being Let's Make This Day Last Forever on the Hannah Montana Free soundtrack, which interestingly came out the day before his solo Mitchell Musso album came out. Like, he had a duet with Hannah Montana come out the day before he released his solo album. I don't know why they did that. He also starred in a show of his own called Pair of Kings, where he plays King Brady, one of the co-stars, and sings the theme tune for that show, Top of the World, with Doc Shaw, the other star of that show. He's featured on 5 of the Disney soundtracks and is now releasing music with a new label. I think he actually started releasing with a different label in 2011, but now is releasing with his own record label, which brings us to the scale. Where does he land? He made it into the will. Mitchell Musso is an official Disney Channel pop star, the 35th on this list, and my girlfriend says the only thing she remembers about him is his hair. Bringing us on to none other than Wayne Brady. He actually had a surprising connection to the Disney Channel early on in his career. He sung the theme tune for The Weekenders animated TV show. He also played Lozano in Disney's live-action Pinocchio movie that came out that year and sung the song Toys with Geppetto in that movie, before making his first appearance on the Disney Channel as Mason Wyatt in Going to the Mat. He signed to Walt Disney Records around 2011 and released the album Radio Wayne, which contains some of my favorite songs like Reading Can Be Fun and Wash Your Hands. Yeah, he made a children's album for Walt Disney Music for some reason. That exists. I don't think it really counts as being a pop star or releasing pop music of any kind, though. He's done work with Disney even more recently than that, though. He actually stars as Clover the Rabbit in Sophia the First and sings the song Blue Ribbon Bunny in that show. He released his last official single in 2019 called Flirtin' with Forever, and that's what brings us to the scale. Where does he land? I'm afraid to say I'm not giving it to him. I'm saying he's not. I think he's as much of a Disney Channel pop star as someone like Regis Philbin. He doesn't really make music with them. He just happened to make a children's album for them back in 2011. Which brings us on to my girlfriend's opinion on the matter. She said, loved him in that show about having an absent mother or something. Bringing me to the next Walt Disney Records alumni, none other than Boo Boo Stewart. This is obviously Booby Stewart, Booby, you got me, I said Booby. This is Boo Boo Stewart playing Kai in Good Luck Charlie, and yeah, let's talk about him. So Boo Boo Stewart has 2.7 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Obviously, first appeared as Kai in Good Luck Charlie, also appeared in Kicking It, but is mainly known for starring as Jay, or Jafar's son, in Descendants. And because of that, is in all of the Descendants soundtracks, where that means he has 3 top 10 Disney Channel soundtracks. Obviously, Descendants 1 hit number 1 and is gold, and the other 2 hit 6 and 7. We've said that before. He also has 4 top 100 Disney Channel singles. This is basically exactly the same repertoire as Sophia Carson. He has Rotten to the Core, which hit number 38 and is gold. He has It's Going Down, which hit number 77 and is platinum. He also sung Under the Sea in the Disney Mania 7 soundtrack, obviously the song from The Little Mermaid, before forming his own band, That Band Honey, in 2018, who released music with a label. You may have noticed now, there's nothing about him making music with Walt Disney Records here. And yes, he doesn't release music with Walt Disney Records. Well, obviously, actually, the Descendants stuff is with Walt Disney Records, but that's not what I'm talking about. Obviously, he has his band, and he's not releasing music with Disney with that band. He is still releasing music with that band to this day. Now they're doing it independently. But the reason I bring up Boo Boo Stewart isn't because of this. It's because he was part of a band called T-Squad back in 2006 to about 2008. Again, I don't know the date specifically. And this band obviously consists of him, Jade, Mickey, and Taylor. This is a band. Oh, yep, you can see them here. This is them. And they actually did sign to Walt Disney Records in 2006, where they released one album, also called T-Squad, in 2007. It didn't chart, but they had a single from it called Vertical, which appeared in the Jump In soundtrack in 2007. They also appear on a bunch of Disney Mania and Radio Disney soundtracks, with 3 in total there. Sorry, I forgot to add in the final bit of this slide to say they broke up in 2008. So I'm just adding that in now. Again, I'm not sure if they officially broke up, but they're like one of those, they kind of went on hiatus and never really announced they broke up, but they're not making music anymore, so I'm gonna say they broke up. Which means we get to the scale. Sorry, I don't know why I went the wrong way for a second there. I'm not actually gonna count T-Squad, I'm just gonna talk about Boo Boo Stewart here, and I'm saying he just about made it into the will. Yeah, which makes him officially the 36th pop star. Bringing us to Lyric Street Records. So Lyric Street Records is the Disney Music Group's country music label, which is going to bring us to the country music artists. First up, we have none other than She Daisy. This is She Daisy performing in the show So Weird in 1999. I can almost guarantee that the first bullet point is going to say exactly that. After this one. After this one. Appeared as the... Okay, so everything I just said was kind of covered there. Obviously, they were signed to Lyric Street Records. I said that. This is the country music record label by Disney. They consist of Kristen, Kelsey, and Cassidy. I assume they're all sisters. And they appeared as themselves in So Weird. Their song, Little Goodbyes, from So Weird, also appears on the soundtrack, which doesn't exist, but was made by a guy called Zhao R in an online forum. And because he put so much effort into it, I feel like it should just count as the official So Weird soundtrack. I don't know. They released 5 albums with Lyric Street Records. Their first one being The Whole Shebang, hitting at number 70 and being certified platinum. And their fourth one, Sweet Right Here, hit number 16 in the charts and is certified gold. They also released 8 top 100 singles with Little Goodbyes and I Will But hitting 43. Both of them managed to peak at the same number at 43 in the charts. They appeared on 2 Walt Disney movie soundtracks, being Doug's First Movie and Santa Claus 2, and also sing Deck the Halls on the Radio Disney Holiday Jams soundtrack, and managed to hit number 61 in the charts. And they haven't released any official music since 2011. And the story goes, as far as I'm aware, I'm going to briefly summarize it. They were meant to make a big final album called A Story to Tell with Lyric Street Records. And for some reason, this album never got finished. And the only song they've made really since their 5th album was a song that they did on a Linda McCartney tribute album. They are still posting on Facebook, like, nothing's happened. I don't think they ever announced a breakup or a hiatus of any kind. They just haven't released any music. But with that all said, where do they land on the scale? They made it into the will. Nice, nice. Yeah, I think that's fair. She Daisy made it into the will. Oh, and sorry, yeah, they're the 37th into Popstar for this video. Bringing us on to the next one, we have none other than Billy Ray Cyrus. Now, Billy Ray Cyrus is definitely another one where I can't really call him a Disney Channel pop star. He was a huge success before he was on the Disney Channel. His debut album, Some Gave All, is the most successful album out of every album covered on this video. It is 9 times platinum. I don't even know what the word for 9 times is. Like, nentuple? With that said, after he signed his hand, about 15 years after his career started, he must have signed some sort of deal with Disney, with him getting involved with this show and Miley getting involved with this show and her signing to Hollywood Records and launching her career, that he was going to do some albums with Disney. And because of this, he actually released 3 albums. He did 1 album with Walt Disney Records, the one that Mitchell Musso did an album with called Home at Last, and that hit number 20 in the charts. He also did an album called Back to Tennessee with Lyric Street Records, as I've just mentioned. And finally, he did an album called I'm American with Buena Vista Records, which hit 153 in the charts. And at the same time, he formed a band called Brother Clyde and released a self-titled album. But that wasn't, it didn't chart, so I didn't include it there. And his songs Ready, Set, Don't Go with Miley Cyrus hit 37, and Butterfly Fly Away with Miley Cyrus appears on the Hannah Montana the Movie soundtrack, which hit 56 and is certified platinum. Basically, by the time he signed to Disney, his daughter had become a bigger sensation than him, and now he needed her to get charting hits. He did a cover of Real Gone from the Cars soundtrack for Disney Mania 6, and is now releasing music with a new label. I have to say, when it comes to Billy Ray Cyrus, I actually think his music is brilliant. I personally have takes on music that Americans won't like to hear, but I think we do music better than you here in Britain. I think we have better singer-songwriters, I think we have better bands, I think we have better rappers, but country music, that is one thing where I gotta give you credit and say, you guys cooked. Bringing us to the scale. Where does Billy Ray say? Yeah, he doesn't count. I'm sorry. I'm giving him a big X in the top corner. I want my mullet back. Bringing us to just an entire section to the Cyrus family. They basically all feature in the Disney Channel universe or whatever it is. So I'm just gonna do a little mini section going through the Cyruses. So firstly, we have Noah Cyrus. You see this little girl here? That is Noah Cyrus appearing in Hannah Montana. She is now a musician with 17 million monthly listeners. She appears 7 times as a little girl on Hannah Montana, and also did a song for the English dub of Ponyo, which happened to be distributed by Walt Disney in the US, with Frankie Jonas, funnily enough. One of the weirdest little crossovers of all time. She's now releasing music with a new label and has a lot of success with songs like Make Me Cry hitting number 46 and being double platinum, and her song July, more notably, hitting 85 in the charts and being quintuple platinum. We also then have none other than Brandy Cyrus. This is Brandy Cyrus playing at customer number 1 in Hannah Montana, and she has 79.6 thousand monthly listeners and makes 3 appearances in Hannah Montana, is a self-described DJ and equestrian, according to her Instagram bio, and started releasing music this year, apparently. She has a song called Wildflowers and Wild Horses Remix that came out this August. It's the only song on her Spotify. Then we have none other than Brayson Cyrus. I'm not actually sure if this is Brayson Cyrus. He's listed in the credits as boy number 2 in this, and I was just guessing this is probably who he is, but I don't know. He doesn't look anything like that anymore. Brayson Cyrus makes 1 appearance on Hannah Montana, that one, and I hope it was him. I hope I got it right. And started releasing music with a label in 2018, and I thought it was all right. Again, Americans cooked with country music. Which brings us to another one, being Metro Station. Now, you might have noticed I didn't show a clip there of Metro Station appearing on the Disney Channel. It's because Metro Station never do appear in the Disney Channel, but they consist of Mason Musso, Mitchell Musso's older brother, and Trace Cyrus, Miley Cyrus's older brother. And apparently, Mason Musso and Trace Cyrus met on the set of Hannah Montana, and so a band was formed on the set of Hannah Montana that has 2 million monthly listeners on Spotify. They signed to Columbia Records in 2007, so they don't really have any connection to Hollywood Records other than the fact they toured with Miley Cyrus on the Wonder World tour, and their song Shake It hit number 10 and is double platinum. They went on hiatus in 2010, but I think they're still doing music to an extent. I think some of the guys left the band and some of them are still there. I don't know. Bringing us to the next record label, DMG, or Disney Music Group, Nashville Records. I do not know what their logo is, so I just Googled it, and this is all the different logos that came up. None of them were high quality images, so I guess you're just gonna have to pick a favorite depending on which one you like. They are a Hollywood Records owned country music record label. So we had Lyric Street, which was Disney's country owned record label, and now we have DMG Nashville, which is Hollywood's country record label, which is confusing because Hollywood are owned by Disney. So why do they have 2 country record labels? Who knows? But this might be the first case that is weirder than Mitchell Musso. Let's talk about Lucy Hale. You may remember her as starring as Miranda in Wizards of Waverly Place. She makes 3 appearances on the Disney Channel, 2 of which being in Wizards of Waverly Place. She signed to D&D Nashville around 2012 and released her first album, The Road Between, which actually hit number 14 in the charts, and also had a single which broke the top 100 in the charts. To this day, this is the only album, the only bit of music that was ever released by DMG Nashville. They released 1 album, and it was this album. It didn't do badly either, by the way. For a first album for an artist to break number 14 and to get a single in the Hot 100, very confusing. And she has not released any music since 2017, where she did a few songs more with Disney and DMG Nashville. She is the only artist DMG Nashville ever made music for. Also, I just want to bring up that she is actually the person who plays Periwinkle in Secret of the Wings, Tinkerbell's twin sister. She doesn't have any songs on the soundtrack or anything, but she does star in that movie. That's where we're left. She's the only person to ever make music for DMG Nashville. She made 1 album, she made a few singles afterwards, and for that reason, I'm saying on the scale, she just about made it in, making her officially the 38th Disney Channel pop star. Bringing us to the end of artists that Disney signed at some point in their career. But to be honest, it's merely just scratching the surface when it comes to Disney Channel pop stars. We've only talked about 38 Disney Channel pop stars today, and trust me, there's a lot more. So many more. Debbie Ryan. This is Olivia Rodrigo. Let's go. To Kiki Palmer. Then Meg Donnelly. Let's talk about Britney Spears. We have none other than Ashley Tisdale. We have Naomi Scott here. That is none other than Beyonce. Oh, next, we have a pretty familiar face, I think you might be able to say. That is Taylor Swift. Also, once again, I just want to give a thank you to my patrons, Kayla AC, Jacob, Aneshka, Jonathan, Ben, and Will. Supporting me on there is a great way to support me doing long projects like this. If you enjoy this kind of thing, link is in the description. Please go check it out, and your support means the world to me. Everybody, rock your body right.